Persona's 4 Golden and 5 Royal are my two all-time favorite games, so naturally you'd think I'd be pretty excited for Persona 6, which I totally am, but not as excited as I should be. In fact, I'm actually kinda dreading it. So crack open a can of non-alcoholic bull milk, and I'll tell you why Atlus has got me worried about Persona 6.
Alright, so let me make it abundantly clear right off the bat and say that I'm not worried that Persona 6 is going to be a bad game by any means, and I'm not even going to be disappointed if it's not the best in the franchise either. As long as it's at least comparable to 4 and 5, I'll be a happy full-grown man, and I've got no doubts that Atlus is going to be able to carry their weight in the quality department. The thing that's got me all hot and bothered, though, is the fact that I know damn well that I'm going to spend like 100 hours playing Persona 6, and then like 2 years later, Atlus is going to be like, hey, we hope you had fun with that, but if you want to play the real Persona 6, then you're going to have to spend another $70 for the slightly updated version that we're going to call a new game. I'm sure someone's bound to call me a butt dumpling for assuming there's going to be 2 versions of Persona 6 this early on, but like, they did it for 3, 4, and 5, so I just can't fathom that they wouldn't do the same thing for 6, and honestly, I think it's kind of lame to plan something like that out ahead of time. Like, with Persona 3 FES, it didn't feel like they were originally intending to release the game twice from the moment the game was greenlit. I might be wrong about that, but the key here is that FES at least felt like it was spontaneous rather than something that was planned from the beginning to be bought twice. Besides, it's not like DLC was even a thing for the PS2 anyway. And honestly, I actually liked that they added a bunch of new things to Persona 3 Portable and 4 Golden, because once again, the updates didn't feel like they were planned all along. While all those updates and upgrades were pretty friggin' cool back then, one big drawback they had was that they taught Atlus that it's perfectly okay to release the same game twice, and also conditioned us to get used to paying for it. And look, I'm not saying that Atlus needs to be locked up or anything like that, because obviously they're not forcing anybody to buy any of these re-releases. And again, there are considerable upgrades, so they're not literally releasing the same games twice, it's just that in the Age DLC, I don't think the amount of extra content that's provided is enough to warrant another full retail purchase. Well, I guess I can't really say that it doesn't, because I friggin' bought Persona 5 Royal, but still though, I didn't feel good about it. But really, I'd say that it's more accurate to say that it made me regret buying the original Persona 5, because even though I did have an amazing time with that game, it kind of felt like a complete waste of time knowing that I'd have to spend another 100 hours for like 10 to 15% more story. I mean, again, now that DLC's a thing, I didn't think they'd release a whole nother game. And like, for a game that I consider to be my all-time favorite, I suppose spending $120 after it was all said and done was honestly worth it, since I'm usually pretty happy with $60 games that can be finished in about 20 hours. Besides, this is Atlus we're talking about here, so if the price is really a concern for you, then, like, just wait a few months. You know they're gonna lower it to 20 bucks. But the thing is, my first Persona game was 4 Golden, so I fully expected regular Persona 5 story to have stuff to do in the month of January, so when it skipped the entire month, I thought I made a bad choice somewhere along the way. But after doing a quick Google search, I found out that the January stuff was only available in 4 Golden and not the regular version on the PS2, and then I realized what Atlus was up to, and it kind of felt like I'd wasted 100 hours of my life. I still had a blast with those 100 hours, so I wasn't mad or anything like that, but when I eventually started playing through 5 Royal, the game wasn't nearly as fun going through most of the exact same stuff over again just to experience a few new things here and there. I mean, Royal's definitely the definitive version of the game, and the improvements to the gameplay did make things different enough so that I wouldn't be totally upset, but honestly, I really do regret playing through the original Persona 5, because I kind of feel like Royal would have blown me away that much more if I'd just waited a little longer. But then again, I guess if nobody played the original Persona 5, then Royal would have never existed in the first place. But even though base Persona 5 is still a really good game in its own right, it essentially feels like an unfinished beta prototype for Royal, and if I'd have known that's what it was gonna be, then I'd have just waited so I could have experienced the finished game to its full potential. I know you might think I'm being a bit dramatic to say that, but if somebody asked you which version of Persona 5 you should play now that they're both about 20 bucks, there's no way you can honestly say that you'd recommend the original first, or even at all, although I'm sure there are gonna be people who say the original's better like they did with the original Persona 4. Royal may only be about 25% better at most if you consider the original story and gameplay updates, but in my opinion, that's still not enough to justify an entirely new retail release. And even though I'd bet just about anything that Persona 6 is also going to be an unfinished prototype, I'm still probably going to get it the day it comes out because I'm a total bitch. But instead of making us replay the entire game again just to get a little bit more story, I really wish they'd give people who bought the original an option to buy the new story as DLC for a little cheaper. Personally, I kind of like the idea of extra content being immortalized on physical media rather than only being available through a download, because that way we could still play it after the Rapture. So I think it'd be pretty cool if Persona 6 went down the same route Sonic Mania Plus did, where if you bought the original, you could either pay a little bit less for a digital update, or if you're a stickler for physical media, you could buy like the Super Ultra Definitive Edition or whatever for full retail. But again, Sega and Atlus games are always like 20 bucks after a few months anyway, so I'm a lot less concerned with money as I am with the amount of time I'm spending. So if Persona 6 ends up getting an extra story later on, I really hope it doesn't make us replay the entire game over again. If they're gonna do extra story later on, I think it should really be more along the lines of what Xenoblade 2 did and have it all be separate from the main game. Because I mean, Persona 5 Royal is pretty much what Avengers Endgame did when they added like 10 extra minutes of footage that you had to watch the whole movie again to see. I don't care if the extra content's only like 10 to 20 more hours, I just want it to be its own standalone story so I don't feel like I'm wasting my time playing base Persona 6. 'Cause that way I wouldn't feel like I'm being punished for buying the game early on and warranting extra content to be made in the first place. I mean, I played through Persona 4 Golden 4 times, but I had to consciously tell myself not to play 5 again, because I knew it'd be a complete waste of time once I realized that a slightly updated version was probably coming out later on. So like, if I really get into Persona 6 and feel like doing a New Game Plus, it'd be nice if doing so wouldn't make me less eager to play Persona 6 Platinum or whatever they'd end up calling it. Because I mean, rather than spending 100 hours on playing an unfinished beta version of a game, I'd rather use that time to work on my backlog of games, many of which were made by Atlus, oddly enough.
Whether you find me to be crazy for thinking that an unfinished Persona 6 would ruin the full version later on, or you think I have a good point, let me know what your thoughts are in the comments below. And for anyone who might be wondering why I haven't been uploading as much lately, it's not like I'm over it or anything like that. I've just been really busy making a lot of fun videos that aren't going to be outdated in like 2 days. Just bear with me a little bit longer, I'm going to start posting them soon. But anyway, that's all for today though, but if you like this video, then you should check out my trilogy where Atlus made me cut a broken Persona Q cartridge in half for a download code. You'll excuse me though, I gotta go pay the water bill. Later.
So I want to say thank you to your loyalty, thank you for your support.